Hello everyone, happy Friday. This is Union Insider presented by Independence Blue Cross. I'm your host, Sage Hurley. Here's a look at what we have coming up for you over the next 30 minutes. Stosh Korzanowski has been one of the pleasant surprises of 2026, and we'll give you the lowdown on his rise up the ranks of the Union with his very unique pathway to the pros. And Joe Tansey, yes, that Joe Tansey, joins me later on to talk two Union players' chances of turning up at this summer's World Cup. Plus, who might grace the final roster for the U.S. men's national team. And later, Sheanon Williams will be here on set to discuss the Boys and Blues' big home matchup against the Chicago Fire tomorrow at Subaru Park. Saturday afternoon soiree with Chicago will be the team's latest attempt at garnering their first win in Major League Soccer this season. 6 days ago against Atlanta, the team suffered yet another setback, falling to the five stripes. The final score in this one was 3-1, the team conceding once in the first half and twice in the second. The lone consolation coming in the form of a late goal from Augustine Anello. This marks the longest stretch the Union have ever gone without a point to start a season in Major League Soccer. We'll discuss later on whether or not this weekend's game against the Fire qualifies for must-win status, but for Wednesday's second leg round of 16 against Club America, the Boys in Blue needed to sneak by with a win in Mexico in some form or fashion. Easier said than done. It was a valiant effort from the Boys in Blue south of the border, ultimately tying the game 1-1, falling 2-1 on aggregate over the course of the two legs. The Union got a PK goal from Jesus Bueno at the start of the second half and had their chances to equalize as well. Bradley Carnell will be hoping to take some of that second half magic and spread it around starting this weekend. One of the more pleasant surprises this year has been the play of Stosh Korzanowski. The young forward spent most of last season with Union 2 and has taken the ball and run with it this year, though as you're about to find out, his rise has been anything but straightforward.
My name is Stosh Korzanowski. I'm a striker for the Philadelphia Union, and this is my pathway. I grew up playing recreational soccer in West Windsor, New Jersey, just outside of Princeton. It was like in the really early stages where, you were just learning how to kick a ball. My parents would be watching me, trying to dribble, trying to pass, and I was there with all my best friends from the neighborhood that I was growing up in. What I remember the best about those days is, I don't know, I just would always be scoring goals. I'd always walk away scoring goals. Soccer was more of an outlet, a release. It was like something I thoroughly enjoyed, but not something that I thought I could make a career out of. It was, I'm playing with my friends and I'd love to go to college and play another 4 years at college. And it didn't start to feel real until my sophomore year of college. I'd actually kind of pushed away the thought of playing professionally throughout high school. I didn't seriously consider that being a career for myself until my sophomore year, where I had a really good season, a breakout season, and then I started to fully understand that I was in a position where, yeah, I could play soccer professionally if I keep going the way I was. I'm forever indebted to the coaching staff and program at Penn. Coach Gill was instrumental to my development for those 4 years. He saw the potential I had more than I saw myself. The draft process for MLS is kind of just to get your foot in the door. It just kind of gives you an opportunity at a team. You follow the other sports teams and you see what a big occasion it is, how celebrated it is. And there's a whole ceremony where guys are dressed up in suits and ties. But I was at home sitting on the couch watching with my parents, and they only did the draft show for the first round. I found out through refreshing the website and seeing that my name was listed next to the Philadelphia Union, and then after that I received a call from John Shear to confirm, which was obviously an incredible feeling. I had no idea who I was going to get drafted by. I just knew that I was draft eligible. And so you're just really excited. You're just hoping to see your name. And I mean, the moment I saw my name, it was just unbelievable. It was almost as if all of that doubt, all the years where I didn't think I could even make it to college soccer, that I could even play Division I soccer, all of that struggle. I don't know, it's just such a surreal feeling that here I was being drafted by a professional organization that I had never in my mind thought was possible for me. Not many people know, but while I was playing with the first and second team training, I would go to classes in the afternoon, I would have exams in the afternoon. So I was a full-time student and full-time professional athlete from January until May when I walked. It meant the world to me, I think even more so for my parents. They were constantly stressing about me finishing my degree. I'm super thankful to the coaching staff for understanding that I needed to get my diploma. What I kind of surprised myself with was when I came onto the field for my MLS debut at Audi Field in DC for that game. I was very calm. If I were to get the ball, I would know what to do and I would do the right thing. And my first action, I have this hold-up play against this big, veteran center back, and I get a down press from their 6 and I meg him. When you have a good action like that, especially when it's your first action, it just gives you the confidence to keep growing into the game, to get on the ball more. And the first game at CONCACAF in Trinidad, I felt really strong about my performance, and that set the tone for the DC game, which then set the tone for the next game, and that was electric. My first professional goal, goals, a brace, that was incredible. Yeah. Now I'm itching for an MLS goal. I'm always craving like a goal. It's funny, you talk about it like it's a food, but when that first one happens in MLS play, I think I'll be more thrilled than, which is hard to imagine, but I think I'd be even more happy.
We're back in a minute, but before we break, here's this week's trivia question presented by United Concordia. The 2 players who scored in the Union's 2-0 win over Chicago in 2019 were substituted for one another in that match. Who were they? The answer comes later in the show. Union Insider is back after this. Welcome back to Union Insider. The Union will be hoping that the comforts of home will give them a lift against Chicago tomorrow afternoon at Subaru Park. Bradley Carnell's team in danger of suffering a 5th loss. Some context for you. Last season, the team didn't lose its 5th league game until July. To help us better understand where the team goes from here, we bring in someone who's covered this team long enough to have seen all the ups and downs. Joe Tansey joining us via Zoom. Joe, thanks for setting aside some time for us this week.
Absolutely. You're right. I've seen almost everything you could imagine and then some.
Joe, I don't want you to pull any punches here, but if you were in Bradley Carnell's shoes this week, what 3 things would be on your whiteboard with big circles around them?
So first, I would take what happened in the second half against Club America. I would circle that and say, and be a little more on the front foot, a little more aggressive. I think that was that 15 to 20 minute stretch that we saw in the second half that produced the penalty looked really good. So there's something you can bottle up there, right? And really make something to build off of. So I think that's one is, look, this team's capable of doing that. It's just a matter of putting that all together for 45, then for 90. Like it's just got to be more consistent. And I think that's something you can absolutely build on. 2, look, there's got to be something from the attack, and whether that be chance creation needs to get better from the number 10 spots. A little more, I guess, more shots on target is really what you're looking for. More pressure on the net from the forwards. I'd really like to see that. And then 3, I think defending wise, it's been pretty good. I mean, the Atlanta game, sure, you give up 3 goals, but the structure's in place. It feels like the best 4 are now able to play together with Philippe and Digga being in the squad. So I think that's something, just focus on that, focus on the defensive principles, and make sure that everything in the back is okay, because the defensively, it's been manageable back there so far. You can at least deal with that. It's just the chance creation, being able to have consistent pressure in the final third is something you want more of.
You mentioned the Atlanta game. Let's go back there for a minute. Between the 2 glorious chances in the first 10 minutes, plus the missed PK by Milan Iloski at 1-0, it felt like a game of missed opportunities in some ways. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. And look, there are going to be games like that throughout the season. It's just the fact that it's built on top of everything else that's gone on this season so far. Because in a nutshell of a 34-game season, a 3-1 loss on the road, those happen. But in the context of where the Union are at right now, it just feels like nothing's going their way. And it's a little different from 2024, where they were playing well and nothing was going their way. The breaks just weren't lining up at all for the team. This year, it feels like on top of the breaks not going their way, performance isn't matching that and not getting the deserved result. So it's just piled on top of each other because of how the results have gone early this season. 3-1 on the road, it happens, but I think because of how the season has started, those mistakes and the shortcomings have just been amplified.
We heard from Danny Higginbottom last week on the show about the importance of a left-footed left back, which the team now has in Philippe Ndinga. People will inevitably make the comparison to his predecessor, Kai Wagner. In your estimation, how similar or different are they as players?
So I think we have to kind of wait and see what exactly he brings in terms of chance creation. It's still a very small sample size. But look, unfortunately for him, that's the standard he's going to be compared to. I guess you can say the same thing with Japhet Seri-Larsen being compared to Jacob Glesnes because the profiles are so similar for when they came into the club as well. It's, again, still a small sample size. I like what I've seen, but I need to see more in terms of chance creation, just getting forward what he can bring to the fore. And with that comes this international break after the Chicago game, I think will be huge for him because it'll give him 2 full weeks to settle in and figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of his teammates are. And I think that's a big thing that he missed coming in so late.
Joe, oftentimes when there's been a run of extended poor form, managers look to shake things up, whether that's changing habits, playing a lot of young players. There's a lot of ways to do that. What do you think that looks like for Bradley Carnell?
Shaking things up for me is finding more consistency. Just give me your best 11. And what worked so well last year is we knew what the best 11 was. We knew which 11 guys were going to be on the field. We knew what they were going to bring each game. I think they're still missing that right now, whether it be because of the preseason injuries, Ndinga coming in late. Bruno Damiani was out for 2 weeks in preseason, getting his green card sorted out. So I think now that you have all the pieces in place, there's not really a ton of injuries to worry about. I think in this case, it's just finding your best 11 and making sure that you have that and you know what it is. Now that all you're going to be playing until the end of the World Cup break is league games.
Let's switch gears for a bit and talk World Cup and the possibility of seeing a Union player take part. Andre Blake is an automatic starter for Jamaica. This much is certain. Less certain is their path to a World Cup berth, with a playoff match against New Caledonia a week from tomorrow. 2 wins from a spot. Size up the Reggae Boyz' chances for us.
It's going to be fascinating. They'll win the first one, but the second match is the key. And it's so hard to predict with Jamaica because it just hasn't been there. The magic they're looking for in World Cup qualifying, it wasn't there. And it's a shame because with the US, Canada, and Mexico not having to qualify through CONCACAF, you would have hoped Jamaica would have gotten in. Look, with Andre Blake in net, anything's possible, so you can't count that out. But Jamaica's got to get something from their attack if they're going to end up qualifying for the World Cup. And what a great story that would be after all these years, Jamaica trying to make it through to the World Cup. They've had success in Gold Cups previously, but to see Andre on the world's biggest stage would be really fun.
We're also creeping closer to knowing who Mauricio Pochettino will go with for the U.S. men's national team squad. What are you watching the closest ahead of that announcement?
Who's going to score the goals? I feel like we do this every single World Cup cycle. Who's going to score the goals? And right now, the guys who are scoring the goals are in the English Championship, Haji Wright and Patrick Adjemang. Look, there's going to be plenty of other guys that step up when the World Cup happens because that turns players into such different players. And they'll rise their game up, and I'm sure we'll see 1 or 2 really surprise stars. Look, with Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie, you're going to get 100% from them moving in the final third. But I want to see the one striker is Josh Sargent at Toronto FC now, who comes in and maybe makes an impact. I'm not sure, but that's to me the biggest thing is as a U.S. soccer fan is I need to know who's going to score the goals outside of Pulisic, outside of McKennie. We need an out-and-out striker that's going to score goals. If we don't get that, we're not going to go anywhere. But I'm optimistic. I have to be for a home World Cup.
Joe Tansey, thanks so much for joining us. Before you go, though, can you tell everyone what you've got going on right now on the Union Soccer blog and where they can find it?
Yeah, you can go follow at unionsoccerblog.substack.com. A very big piece, very exciting piece coming out on Monday, a little behind the scenes of what it takes for the Union to get from Spain to Clearwater to Trinidad to Mexico. Very fun piece I had a lot of fun working on, so that's coming out to start the international break on top of your normal match content each week.
Can't wait to read it. Thanks, Joe. There's another stoppage in play. When we return, Sheanon Williams joins me on set to break down tomorrow's Dance with the Fire at Subaru Park, plus his 2 keys to a Union victory. That and more when we return. Back with this week's Union Update presented by Torque. The lone bright spot in the Union's 3-1 loss to Atlanta last Saturday came in the form of a goal from newly acquired Augustine Anello, his first in Union colors. It's also the team's first goal from open play in MLS this season, a record they'll look to improve on starting tomorrow afternoon. Back here on set where I'm joined by former Union defender Sheanon Williams, we're going to talk a bit more about this week's matchup, which feels more important than an early season head-to-head with the Fire probably should. Chicago, 1 win through 4 games, and yet to win on the road. Sounds exactly like the kind of team you'd want to play in the Union's position.
It's the get-right game that this Union team needs at 0-4. The game being at home in Subaru Park is also going to be a huge lift for this team that's looking to pick up their first points of the season. They need to come out aggressive and really take it to the Chicago team that's been also struggling to start the season.
Hugo Kuipers, 3 goals in 3 games, picking right up where he left off after last year's 17-goal return for Chicago. Remind the audience how the Union should go about defending him.
They've got to have somebody in and around him at all times. They've got to make sure that anytime he's in the box that he's being picked up. This is somebody that you don't want to give an inch of space to. Already has 3 goals to start the season. We talked about the 17 goals he had last year. Their main man for Chicago is Hugo Kuipers, and that's who the Union are going to have to do a good job of stopping.
It's time for Keys to the Game presented by Subaru. Sheanon, what's your first key to a Union win against Chicago Fire at home this weekend?
My first key this week is going to be for this Union to turn up the pressure. They need to do a really good job on their press. We saw it work last year in the playoffs, being able to turn this Chicago team over in their own half and then capitalizing on it. I think when you're struggling to score goals in open play, turning up your press and being more aggressive in that part of the game is going to be important to help you get some easy chances on goal. And then my second key this week is going to be to capitalize on the set pieces. When you're a team that's struggling, again, to score goals, set pieces can be such a huge way to take points. They need to get back to getting the set pieces right. So far this season, they haven't done that.
One more hydration break to sneak in. When we return, I'll hold Shannon's feet to the fire and ask him if tomorrow's game qualifies for must-win status. You're watching Union Insider, presented by Independence Blue Cross. We're back with the answer to this week's trivia question presented by United Concordia. Earlier we asked you for the 2 players who scored in the Union's 2-0 win over Chicago in 2019 who were substituted for one another in that match. The answer, Marco Fabian, who started, Anthony Fontana, who subbed on to replace him in the second half. Time for this week's final whistle discussion presented by Allstate. This week's topic, is this a must-win game?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, you kind of have to look at it as a must-win game. This is a team that's only lost 3 games at home in the past 2 seasons. They're already at 2 right now. So again, we want to see if this is an early season slump or a season where they regress. We are hoping that it's the early season slump, and hopefully they can get it kick-started this weekend against Chicago.
So yes, you think it's a must-win game?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's a must-win game. Being at home in front of your home crowd, the way they've started the season, this is a must-win game for them.
Will they?
They have to. I have to believe that this team will get this right. I think the early season, they've had 8 different starting lineups in their 8 games so far. Can they do a good job of finding some more consistency? They look to do that at home this weekend.
Sheanon, we'll see you on Saturday. That'll do it for this edition of Union Insider. The Boys in Blue are home versus the Chicago Fire tomorrow afternoon. Coverage starts at 4:30 p.m. on Apple TV. For Joe Tansey, Sheanon Williams, and our entire crew, thanks so much for joining us. We're off for the international break next week, but we'll see you at Subaru Park this weekend.